Hello and welcome to the Southbound Sports Show. I'm your host, Richie Leahy, here with my co-host, Maddie B. And I almost called the show Scott Rowland Sucks, Matt. But then I couldn't really pull in the data, but it annoyed me so bad. This is my high tempo, by the way, that Major League Baseball inducts Scott Rowland to the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. And I'm like, okay, what is his stats like in grand term of things? He's like a 280 hitter, right? So overall, yeah, he got a ton of hits. He played a ton of games. He doesn't even have 3,000 hits, man. He played in 2,000 games, and yeah, he's averaging like, a hit a game or something, but you're not putting in Alex Rodriguez. You're putting in him, and you're taunting it like that he's a World Series champ. And I saw someone put up that he didn't even get a hit in the World Series or something. I didn't double check the stats, but they said in the entire playoff, his career average went from 281 down to like 200 or something, 220. Like, that's not a big time World Series champ, right? So this is what they said got him on the list. He's one of 4 third basemen with 2,000 hits, 500 doubles, which is random, right? 300 home runs, not that many. And then 1,200 RBIs with Chipper Jones, Beltray, and George Brett. And to me, he played forever, right? He played for 17 years. It's not like he was Tony Gwynn. Like, I almost made a Tony Gwynn joke the other day, and I was like, did he hit 300? I looked it up. He's like well above 300 for his career, and I was like, oh, awesome. He was like almost hitting 400. Man, Scott Rowland's hitting 281. Awesome. Like, that's just like your average bucko, right? It's like, just keep him around forever. So I don't like the new World Series. It annoys, or not the new World Series, the new Hall of Fame. It annoys me. You're going to leave out better guys because you don't think a loser guy was on steroids, right?
I would think not.
I just don't get it. They're like, you're just enough of a loser that we're going to put you in. That has to be how they're looking at it. I don't see any other way that they're thinking about it. Like, you're not good enough to be on steroids, buddy. You're good enough for the Hall of Fame. That has to be their logic, right?
I guess.
And I don't know why Todd Helton wasn't in. Todd Helton was like, I thought he had much better stats. He just didn't play as long. Didn't he just quit one day? I'm going to look it up now and see how many career games he played. He had 300-something home run. He had 369 home runs, 592 doubles. Runs batted in were 1,400. He's like almost the exact same as Scott Rowland. But his batting average was 316, Matt. Right? So, like, to me, batting average, I know everyone's like, new age stats this, new age stats that. He was an all-star because third basemans aren't that good, right? Whatever. He won the World Series. Todd Helton didn't. Who cares if you weren't about winning the World Series, man? World Series are bought and paid by the top teams. Todd Helton didn't sell out. He didn't sell out and switch to, like, the Yankees, did he? I don't think he did. He pretty much just stayed with Colorado. I think. This doesn't really say who his teams. Yeah, he played his entire career for the Rockies. That's why he's not getting in. That's it. Just say, we don't want Rockies in. Scott Rowland bounced around. He played for the Cards. He played for the Phillies. Right? Where did he win his World Series? To the Cards? You would know. I'm dogging one of your guys.
Yes. He was with the Cards.
But if you were naming standout players, like, hey, I remember that World Series, would you even mention Scott Rowland?
He was one of those signings that I think put him over the top, though, over the course of the year.
Yeah, put him over the top. The course of the year. The Braves had a couple of those guys are no longer really with the team, and people aren't going to remember them either. Like, he was there since 2002 with the Cards. They didn't win until 2006, so he was there for a while, and he won 8 Gold Gloves. What did Todd Helton have? Like, it's hard to win Gold Gloves and stuff. He had 3, and All-Star awards when you're playing at Colorado. Like, when you're playing with the Cardinals, of course you're going to be picked, right? The Cardinals are a great franchise. So are the Phillies, as much as I hate to admit that. But, like, how many times do you think, like, if you're a betting man, and I said, hey, I'm going to give you like the Cardinals, Colorado, and like who knows, like Milwaukee. You're gonna, and I'm gonna say you don't know anything about the teams, but you're gonna pick one to make the World Series. You'd 100% pick the Cardinals every time. There's no way you would pick the Rockies and whatever other team I randomly throw in there, like the Pirates. Like you would never pick them, just because I know nothing about the franchise except it's run poorly. Not knocking Colorado, but they're just not a big market, and some of those Major League Baseball markets, they don't care enough to try. That's my analysis. Go ahead. What do you want to add on there?
I feel like annually with the Baseball Hall of Fame, we go through this where there's people that they're voting in and almost get the feeling that they're putting in people just to spite some of those guys that they have on this banned list. And it's like, well, we're on print. Like, it's also got a principle now, not a spite. We're not putting these certain people in. But I think all it does is it takes a little bit away from the Hall of Fame if this is a representation of your best players, and then you don't put the best players from your league in.
And I agree with you. I think the one thing that they should do, and I know they can't really vote people out, right? But everyone talks about like, oh, the College Football Hall of Fame, you have to have like a certain winning percentage. So like Mike Leach can never get inducted unless he gets a voucher, which he very well could have won 8 games next year and made the cut, right? We don't know. But like looking through some of these other teams, it's like, or these other players and stuff, it's like, all right, do they really matter? Like they're talking about Gary Sheffield, and he's not getting it because they don't know if he took steroids. Like he was better than Scott Rowland, Matt. Not that much better. He hit 292. And so everyone's like, well, that's Hall of Fame worthy. But he was a little bit too good. Like we just want Scott Rowland level guys. We don't want Gary Sheffield. Because it even says, here's a quote. There have been questions regarding his involvement with PEDs. Not that he tested positive, just that there are questions that he was a little bit too good. Right? It doesn't make sense. I don't even know. Like it annoys me. Like I'm looking up where the crime dog got in too. What did he do? Where's his stats? He hit 284, 2,000 something hits. How many years did he play? He was a 5-time All-Star, World Series champ. He led the league in home runs. Scott Rowland didn't do anything like that. He wasn't even like double play lead or anything. At least they don't track it on here. But I wish it would say how many years these guys played. 6 teams through like, what would it be? 18 years almost, like Fred McGriff. Like he played for damn 18 years. Of course he's going to put up big numbers. I wouldn't really say that Fred McGriff was the perfect like guy for the Hall of Fame. And I like Fred McGriff. Like he played for the Braves. So like I'm not going to dog him. I was excited that he got in, but like honestly, he's one of the guys where they're like, you weren't that good, so we don't think you're on steroids. But like that's honestly what they're saying. So it's almost like a slight for these guys. They should just have a, we know you weren't on steroids because you're not that good section. That's all I'm saying. Anything else you want to hit on that before we get to the...
I mean, just something else. Maybe don't put, like, if you don't have a big list of people who are clear-cut first ballot guys, maybe they don't need to be in the Hall of Fame. Like, it's okay not to induct everybody into your Hall of Fame.
Well, that's what they were getting to. They're putting, like, one guy in. They were saying, like, they've been shutting people out, so Scott Rowland's the guy that gets in. It was almost him and Todd Helton, right? And then the other group put in the crime dog and maybe someone else. But it's like, all right, you have a list of guys that are way better, including my man Barry Bonds, but, like, you're thinking, there's no way we can put these guys in. And so, like, what are we looking at? I'm looking at the list all time to see. They have, like, 269 people in the Hall of Fame, right? So the 300 batting average, which to me would be like the barometer all time, it looks like there are 182 people that hit over 300. Some of them obviously aren't in because of the steroid stuff. Then there are other guys like Barry Bonds who are right under it, 298. But of course, he has the most home runs. So, like, yeah, I'm not saying like, oh, Scott Rowland should never be in. What does he lead though? Right? Like, what makes him one of the greatest of all time? Like, if you're looking at these other guys, you can say like, all right, perfect. That's what makes him an all-timer. Like a guy that you'll never forget. I already forgot that Scott Rowland existed. Right? I was looking here to try to see. I don't even think the list goes that long. I was looking to see if I could find out how many people or what number of Scott Rowland would have been all time for batting average, but it looks like it stops at 500, and that's at 283. So double the amount of Hall of Famers have hit better than Scott Rowland. And I know you can throw out all the extra stats or whatever, but I think the batting average should be a barometer if you're not leading one of those other categories. Or like, yeah, you played for 100 teams, but you have like 10 World Series. Like, okay, we can't overlook you, you know? And that's not just hitters. 269 includes pitchers. So cut the list even further. He's not even in the top 500. But they're saying he's one of the best 100-something hitters of all time. It's just insane. It is insane. And if you're putting it based on position or whatever, then say that. Like, okay, well, here are our guys. Like, that's not how they're posting it, though. They're saying he just made the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. And that's it. So, whatever. That's my beef. Anything else you have before we get into the football?
No.
All right. My next topic. Oh, before we get into football, though, patreon.com/southboundsports. Before, in our extended version of the show, you can sign up there to get it. Talked about some of the issues that Michigan's been having off the field. So I know some people have been asking me, are you going to talk about it on the show? Yeah, I did. Go to Patreon. You can hear it. But we're going to get into the NFL because we've got the NFL playoffs. So I don't want the regular show to be super long with my hot takes. So let's get into my real first hot take, Matt. The Bills imploded again. Do you think they should start over?
I don't think they should start over. I think when you look at the weather conditions that they played in that game, and I know that it's easy to say, well, Cincinnati was playing in it too. I feel like it's a different style of game if you're playing it under normal conditions.
And I'm glad you brought that up. That reminded me that did you see the NFL's been talking about maybe making the championship games for the AFC and NFC and neutral site games?
I did see that, and I think they're using that as a potential moneymaker.
Oh, 100%.
To help some of those, like an Indy who hasn't made the playoffs in a long time, or like go to the championship game in a long time. Be like, oh, here, we'll throw you a bone. I
think that's dumb, because if they really wanted to do that, they would have booked it at Detroit, right? They had a chance this year. They had it scheduled at Atlanta. Why the hell?
I think they could have bumped it just because of they had the perfect excuse to test it with using the cancellation game as a reason to be like, well, we don't feel like we can necessarily award this to Buffalo. Cincinnati is whatever. Play in Detroit, and then it's a neutral site game. Both teams have relative shorter distances to travel for it, and no harm, no foul.
Well, your point, put it in Indy. If it's between the Chiefs and the Bills, wouldn't Indy be in the middle? Detroit's a little bit closer to Buffalo. They already played a game there, so it might give them a little bit of a head or like a home advantage. But like, why are you putting it in Atlanta? It makes zero sense. I don't get it. I don't like the neutral site games. And why are you rewarding franchises that are bad? But who cares? I think the cancellation probably hurt Buffalo. It's tough to beat a team twice. And it looked like the Bengals were ahead in that game. I think they probably would have beat the Bills in the regular season. It looks like the Bills to me made like no adjustments. And they said like, there's no way the Bengals can push us around again. And then they did. And that was it. It wasn't even close at the end. And so when I bring up the Bills completely reload, I think they need to adjust their team now. Josh Allen is young. You're in a conference where teams are loaded. You don't want to get into a situation where you're relying on Josh Allen, just like Green Bay relied on Aaron Rodgers, which we're going to talk about later in the show, and Steelers have relied on Ben Roethlisberger, minus the Super Bowl wins. Steelers relied on Ben Roethlisberger for everything. The Bills are now relying on Josh Allen for running the ball. They need to build him a running game. They don't have it, so they can't move the ball on the ground unless he's pulling and running, which you can't do in the playoffs. You just can't. The teams are too good. They have too much talent in the playoffs. And we've seen it with the Ravens, which someone brought up that I keep saying Lamar Jackson's never won a playoff game. I guess he beat the Titans one time. I don't care. I should just stick with that and just pretend like that game doesn't matter. Because, like, really, winning one game during, I think it was 2001, they said. I can't remember. But, yeah, okay. You got me. Great. Yeah, he did win one game. Awesome. He still has a great losing record. And you can't win in the playoffs. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. You can win like the 49ers are doing without a quarterback at all. You don't need one. You need a guy that he's making bad throws, Purdy, that it's to the point where Shanahan's saying that they might just bring Garoppolo back. They're like, yeah, he might. With no practice, no game time, they might just end up playing him if they make the Super Bowl. Because they don't want Purdy to make a bonehead mistake against the Bengals or the Chiefs and lose the game. Because he had some throws that were just like head scratchers. And luckily, the Cowboys just didn't take advantage. So we'll get to the NFC thing here in a second. But my AFC thing is you're looking at Josh Allen, you're looking at Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, and what are you supposed to do long term? All the great quarterbacks are once again in the AFC, it seems. The NFC has really maybe Jalen Hurts as a standout. That's it. Like, what other quarterback in the NFC? I don't know. I'm ignoring my man Tom Brady because he's super old. We don't know where he's going to play next year. But with Tom Brady probably being gone or maybe being gone, what quarterback battles are going to be great in the NFC? There are none. It's almost insane how they all ended up in the AFC, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm trying to.
Yeah, there are none.
I mean, even with Purdy's been playing well for San Francisco, but it's like they can't. They're not definitively making their mind up that, well, maybe you've won 8 games or 7 games in a row, but are you really our quarterback? You're a 7th round pick.
But if you remember, Harbaugh, this is 2013, same franchise, the 49ers. Their owner was very adamant that Harbaugh should have played Alex Smith. That's where one of their beefs started from. If you remember, Alex Smith got hurt. Kaepernick took over, won a bunch of games, got them to the Super Bowl. Alex Smith had been in the NFC Championship game for a couple of years in a row. I think 2. I think Harbaugh made 3 straight NFC Championship games. And they wanted him to switch to Alex Smith for the Super Bowl. He said, I'm sticking with the hot hand. I'm playing Kaepernick. They came out flat. They had to come back. If he hits Crabtree, the Niners win that game. And Harbaugh's a Super Bowl champ. Who knows? Maybe he's not even messing around with the NFL at Michigan, and he has even more credit, and they've already won a national championship in that reality. I don't know. But I do know that the owner was very strong against Harbaugh, saying that he made a poor decision. I could see him being in the ear again, saying, look, I see Purdy. He's leading a lot of balls over the middle deep. You can't do that. You've seen it countless times. Can't be throwing like balls that can just be intercepted and returned. Like, get Garoppolo in there. We've made it this far. Go to our guy. Then if he wins Super Bowl, maybe we can move him. And then let Purdy learn, right? Nothing's hotter than a Super Bowl champ at quarterback. If they've been trying to move Garoppolo for a while, you can then if you're the 49ers, you have Garoppolo, and you have Trey Lance as trade pieces if you want to really go the Purdy route, right? So
yeah,
that's where I think the heat's going to come in. I really think the owner was behind the Kaepernick, Alex Smith thing, and that's really where the beef started between him and Harbaugh. And then he said, like, everyone finds Harbaugh hard to work with. But literally, if you go back through the history, Stanford's not saying that. Stanford would probably take Harbaugh back in a heartbeat, right? San Diego State, any of the NFL teams, none of them are saying Harbaugh's hard to work with. They're trying to get him to sign as a head coach every year, right? It's only the Niners owner is saying that he's tough to work with, and maybe the Michigan's athletic director, which if you go to our Patreon, you can hear my whole thoughts on that scenario. But other than that, everyone is getting along fine. So I think we're going to see the scenario where he gets his goal or he gets his dream, and we're going to see Garoppolo play in the Super Bowl. And whether that goes well or not, I don't know, but they have to get past the Eagles first. The Bills, I just don't know. I think he's young enough that you restart and try to build a running game around him and let his arm strength keep you elevated. Kind of like the Steelers never really reloaded around Ben, right? Maybe cost him another Super Bowl or two. The Packers tried to reload around Aaron Rodgers. He didn't take the pay cut. He kept asking for more and more money, so it made it impossible. To the point where now, sticking with the AFC quarterbacks, Aaron Rodgers is most likely out of Green Bay. They're coming out saying that the Packers are ready to move on, even if he wants to come back. They've already signed him for next year or maybe the next 2 years. I can't remember at this point. So I wouldn't be surprised if he did end up at Green Bay next year. But a couple of things from Green Bay's perspective. He doesn't show up at camp. It's hard to build rapport with your wide receivers when you're not there. And then they said, well, one of them was out. Yeah, one of them. They had drafted like 2 or 3 receivers, buddy. And they're bringing in new guys. Yeah, maybe one guy wasn't there. But like he still could have been working with the rest of the team. So you're not there building the team. You're taking more money. They can't rebuild with you. Now, if they want to move them and get the cap space or get some picks or whatever, now is the time. Because it showed you this year, to me, this was the last year. That Lions game, even though it wasn't technically a playoff game, that was a playoff game. He didn't get it done. They're not able to build the defense better. I know the defense had some injuries, even to my man Rashawn Gary. Had some injuries that hurt them. But the running game hasn't developed with Aaron, and he doesn't work enough with the wide receivers to really get some aspect of that down. You saw it last year where special teams hurt them, but you're the quarterback. You're the guy. Win the game. Why are they paying you so much money if you can't win the game every year? Like you've won one Super Bowl. So to me, I think it's a mutual parting where he goes. They don't want to move him to the NFC. They've already said that, which, like I said, makes sense. Could you see him go to the 49ers? Then they're automatically stacked, right? I don't know if they would be able to make it work, but you don't want him to be in your conference because look around. Young quarterbacks can succeed in the NFC. There's no studs, really. Jalen Hurts might be a stud. We don't know yet.
But I think, like, you look at, it's almost, it's gone in cycles. Like, the 2000s, the early part, you had the ongoing Brady and Manning, where it was like, why would, both of them were competing in the playoffs every year, that it was like, why would you want a quarterback right now during this time where in the AFC you're going to be running into one of these two consistently. And then toward the end of their careers, like it was like it started flip-flopping where the NFC had stronger quarterbacks, and it just started like it shifted that, well, now who's going to be those guys? And it went back to the AFC.
And it even goes back to the 80s, right? You had Joe Montana and those guys, and then in the early 90s, you had Steve Young, and you had Troy Aikman and Brett Favre, and those dudes were winning Super Bowls every year, right? So the NFC was winning like every year. Like you either had the 49ers winning like 4 Super Bowls, 5 Super Bowls, then the Cowboys winning a bunch, and the Packers winning a couple, and then finally Elway breaks through. And it's like whoever played them. Chargers, didn't matter. Chargers got there, lost. The Steelers got there. Neil O'Donnell was their quarterback or something. Like, get out of here. Like you're not beating Troy Aikman. So that's kind of where it looks like to me that's the same from the NFC side right now. Like if the Cowboys would have stuck with Cooper Rush or even Brock Purdy, he gets there, he's playing Patrick Mahomes or something. Good luck, buddy. Right? Like good luck getting there. And so the Packers right now, they're probably looking at it with like love and they're saying, we got to make a move, give him a chance. I thought the Packers moved the ball a lot better with him. Honestly, I know a lot of people are saying like he's not the answer. You don't know. You don't know how the team is going to respond to someone that's actively there trying to win, trying to save their career, right? Aaron Rodgers came out hot early in his career because he sat on the bench so long. You have another exact same situation where the NFC is wide open. Wide open. The NFC East made like 3 of the 4 spots in the finals for the NFC side.
That boggled my mind.
Yeah, like it's not good. The Giants are not good. So the Packers are probably looking at it saying like, hey, if we cut Aaron Rodgers' cost, get him out of the NFC. We don't want him jumping to one of these teams that were close. We don't want him with the Cowboys. We don't want him with the Niners or something. Let's get him to the AFC. We're never going to see him. There's no way we're going to see Aaron Rodgers in the Super Bowl, right? He's never going to get revenge on us because there's no way he's getting through Buffalo, Bengals, Kansas City. He's just not. So put him on like the Titans or something, and maybe it happens. Like the Titans would be the only scenario with Derrick Henry where they've been winning successfully without a quarterback. If you put Aaron Rodgers there and you say like, hey, you're coming in, we're running the ball, taking some heat off you, can he do the Peyton Manning thing and just game manage to the Super Bowl? I don't know. But I think the Tennessee had a bunch of holes anyway, so they're not like a sure thing like the 49ers would have been. Maybe Brady goes to the 49ers, though. And then it doesn't matter what the Packers do. If Brady ends up like somewhere like that on the NFC side, I would shoo them into the Super Bowl. Right?
Yeah, I would say that.
It would be tough to go against my newfound hate for the 49ers to go back to cheering for my man Tom Brady. It'd be really tough. I'd have to pull my Niners gear back out, but I don't know. That's my AFC thing. The Bills, I thought the Bengals right now are poised, but they're able to run the ball. Like you said, the weather's there, able to run the ball. I think they looked like the better team. The Bengals playing the Chiefs. I think the Bengals, were they in it last year? The Super Bowl? I think they're going to be in the Super Bowl again.
Yeah, Bengals lost it last year.
I think they're going to be in the Super Bowl again. And I think it's because they have more consistency running the ball, and they just seem to be hot right now. The Chiefs are kind of just like there, right? Sure, they got the bye, they got all this stuff, but it just doesn't seem like they're over the top good anymore. Like their offense seems to have issues, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's been this way for a while because they've lost that consistent running game. Like they had it in that early run when they won their Super Bowl, and I felt like they were getting by with it, but now it's like they're going to this multiple running back committee, and I just don't think that it works for them.
And it's like getting back to like the AFC, like in the 90s, like I said, when they had Dan Marino and stuff, like he was good enough to get to the Super Bowl. He never won it, and then he never got back. Like I kind of feel like Mahomes could be in that category where they did lose one Super Bowl, I think already. Was that to Tom Brady? I can't remember. But like when you're getting to the game and you're losing to like Tom Brady or whatever other quarterback you're playing, it's just not like good for your legacy. Like at some point you have to be able to turn over to the next level. You can't let Joe Burrow come in and beat you, because then Josh Allen might reload and then he's going to beat you. So a lot of people are saying like Mahomes is the best. He's going to pass up Tom Brady. He only has one Super Bowl. Drew Brees had one Super Bowl. Aaron Rodgers had one Super Bowl. If you were taking bets back in like the late 2000s, everyone would have gambled on them to win 2 or 3, right? They would have figured, oh, they're going to have an Aikman career. It just didn't happen. So I think the only guy, I mean, Eli Manning has more Super Bowls than him right now, which is some big disrespect from the Giants. That's another reason why I don't like them. Disrespecting my man Eli Manning. who should be in the Hall of Fame. If Scott Rowland can make the Hall of Fame, Matt, Eli Manning definitely should. He's in the top 10. He's not 500 plus in terms of whatever passing. Could you imagine if Eli was like the 500th quarterback, which I know there's not that many, so like the equivalent of 500 in baseball is like what? 50 down below. Like I would say like if he was like 50 behind, and even if he won 4 Super Bowls, I'd be like, Eli, nah, son, you got to be out. But he has the stats, so put him in. Let's see. That's my pick. Bengals. I think the Chiefs are kind of trending down. They're going to get an Andy Reid special. Maybe I'm wrong. I think the NFC is going to be. Well, we'll save our predictions for later. You have anything else on the AFC?
Not so much.
All right. Let's get to the NFC side with the Cowboys. Cowboys choke again. They kind of played that quarterback situation where they put Dak in. They could have stayed with Cooper Rush, seen what happened. Dak's already going to be, 30 next year? He played so bad that if he plays even a little bit good, the Cowboys are playing to go to the Super Bowl this week against the Eagles, a team that they're familiar with, so they could easily have won that game, right? Dak looked so bad, I was like, I felt bad for Cowboys fans, right? And then the 49ers couldn't even move the ball. It took 3 penalties on their touchdown scoring drive, which was the difference in the game. I tweeted out because I looked it up. There was like, a weird defensive holding call and something else, and then there was like an offsides or something. Like there was 3 penalties to keep that drive alive.
Well, the crazy thing for Dallas was that how different is their game planning knowing that their field goal kicker was just shanking major kicks?
Oh, that was 100% a problem. And I also wondered, like, can they not pick someone up? Like, is the playoff roster set? And how is he that bad? Like, you couldn't have your punter, like, kicking back up?
But I tried to go back and see if I could get the angle for it, because one of the things that I noticed was that it's a lot of times they put this pressure on the kicker, but it could be just as much on the snap and the hold, that if the holder isn't putting the ball consistently in the right place, it can cause the kicker to push it left or right. And so I was trying to get a better feel, like what's going on with the hold as well, because it's easy to go, just the kicker's in his own head and shanking kicks. But at the same time, if the holds aren't really good, or the person that's regularly holding for him is no longer doing it, like that can throw off some of that kicking game. But I thought the same thing you did. That was like, is he shanking all those extra points last year? There's no way he's kicking this week. Like, you can't go in and being like, well, I just bricked a bunch of shots. Here I am this week.
Well, Matt, my thought was, if I'm the kicker of the Dallas Cowboys, I'm going to be getting death threats, right? Because that's something they would do. I need to be kicking balls nonstop for 7 days. All I'm doing is sleeping. If I have kids, I'm a millionaire or whatever because I play for the Cowboys. I'm going to be sleeping at the team facility. They probably have a bed there that's like a hyper chamber like Terrell Owens would use. And I would just be sitting there working with, I'd call up every kicker that I know in the book and say, like, guys, we need to get this fixed. It's playoffs, baby. And then for him to just come out and be like, Shank, I'm like, are you serious? This is how we're starting this game off? And then that one was so close that it was like, if you're missing this, you're done. Your career's over. No one can trust you ever again. It's that bad. So I don't know. You can blame it on that. I think the game planning was a little bit different. I think Dak making so many poor moves, and then the end of the game when they were in that stupid play, it's like, all right. And I was thinking during the game, like, holy crap, Mike McCarthy has his team going. Maybe that's what Aaron Rodgers needed, was just a coach like that to get going, but he can't throw the ball. So, like, if you fire like the coaches and stuff, it's like, all right, maybe try to just get him anybody. And I almost wondered, like, if Aaron Rodgers, like, if the Packers would have moved him to the NFC, the Cowboys might have been an intriguing spot. Reunite him with McCarthy, see what happens. The NFC isn't scary at all. There's no team that coming in that I'm like, that's a Super Bowl team. The 49ers, like with Trey Lance, there's no way I would have bet on that. No way. With Garoppolo, I figure, yeah, they might make it there. Anyone can make the Super Bowl in the NFC, right? You got to get through my man Tom Brady, but their team was like a mess. So that's why I think he moves. If Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers both move to the AFC, every NFC quarterback right now needs to just start working out because you're like, this is my year. Like, if I can't make it this year, meaning next year, like if those two guys leave, then what am I doing? Like, if Jalen Hurts wins the Super Bowl this year, because the Eagles looked unstoppable and they were like, of course they're playing the Giants, and people thought the Giants were even going to compete. They're talking about like Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones hasn't done anything. Like, they weren't even a 10-win team. So them getting there, I knew the Eagles have been good. I've been singing their praises all year long. Devonta Smith, a lot of people weren't even picking him for fantasy. I said, like, that's going to be your sleeper. You need to have a guy that's like an outlet slot guy. He's like their wide receiver. Like, it's unbelievable how he gets open. And it's just crazy that like the Eagles have these weapons. They have a running quarterback that can move the pocket. And I really don't think that anyone in the AFC, I mean, Mahomes moves the ball. He got hurt though. So he was even hurt in that game.
Yeah.
So even if the Bengals are like cued in, they haven't seen anything like Jalen Hurts. And I'm not saying that he's not going to come out and like lay a big egg. I mean, we've seen it before with other quarterbacks, but I think the Eagles were no shock. I've been saying for a while, I think on this show, that the Eagles are going to be the Super Bowl. They're my pick. The 49ers, I don't know what they're going to do at quarterback, but you have so many weapons. The Cowboys shut you down. The Eagles are better than the Cowboys by far. So if the 49ers get there, I would be shocked. I think we're going to see the Eagles and the Bengals make it to the Super Bowl. And I don't even like the Eagles, Matt. There's no reason I should even be talking about them on this show. Right? I don't like them at all. But what do you think on the NFC side?
You know, I think the easy pick is the Eagles because they have so many offensive weapons. But with the way Shanahan's able to call the game for the Niners, I think if they play keep away, you could end up looking at a similar style game as what you saw this past weekend, where it was just a low-scoring slobber knocker.
But it's in Philly.
Chew clock. And that may be even worse because we're starting to get snow, and we're on a snow watch for the next couple days here, so field conditions could be a mess by Sunday.
Yeah, that's true, and that's going to be perfect because the 49ers have a fair weather running back named Christian McCaffrey, Matt. You might have heard of him. He doesn't really do well with adversity. So him magically...
He's healthy now, dog. He's out of Carolina.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
He's a receiver. He's a running back. He's playing all over the place.
He scored touchdowns. He's like the entire team. And then all it takes is him to get nicked up, and they're done.
You take that to the bank. He's not getting injured now.
Don't bet on it. All it takes is one Eagles icy slip. Remember, he ran out of bounds like that one year, was like 2 years ago for Carolina. He like just had the hamstring pull where he just limped off the field.
If Philly's winning by 30, then maybe he'll be like, all right, my leg hurts again.
So, well, that's what I'm thinking. I don't even know. Like, the better game of the weekend is probably going to be Bengals Chiefs, but I think they're both going to be good games, honestly. I think you're probably right. I do like a defensive battle. But some of the stuff the Eagles are doing, like quarterback sneak-wise and like doing the rugby stuff, I'm surprised other teams haven't even tried that. They're like, nah, not us. And the Eagles are like just there pushing. And so as much as I don't like the Eagles franchise and Philadelphia teams in general, it hurts me to say that they're going to go ahead and they're going to win. I just don't think Shanahan's the guy, right? Wow. I thought it was weird that John Lynch was like immediately on the field with him. Did you see that?
Yeah, he like parachuted down.
Yeah, they showed him in the box, and then he's like on the field celebrating. Like, yeah, great work, John. You got Christian McCaffrey, awesome. Like, you don't got a quarterback, buddy. Like, what are you doing to make the team win?
He has two quarterbacks now.
Yeah, well, if Mr. Irrelevant becomes like a multi-year starter, I liked Purdy in college. I'm surprised that he fell that long. I thought he would be like a 4th or 5th round pick, right? That's just falling college football. But for him to go 7th round, that is funny. And for him to go to the 49ers, it's the perfect situation. Because like he played at Iowa State where he was like the guy. Now he has all these weapons. So it's like the exact same scenario he had in college. Where it's like, buddy, just don't lose the game. Don't lose the game. We're going to lose the teams we're supposed to lose to. But we're very talented, so we're not going to lose to many teams. And that's what kept Matt Campbell alive. So, anything else you have for the playoff stuff?
Trying to think.
I feel like this might be a short show. We don't have as many games to talk about.
Yeah, there wasn't as much stuff standing out.
I did want to add one thing randomly as we get into the final bell stuff. I might bring back to the NFL in a second, but I didn't want to forget it. Ward Manuel, Michigan's AD, like I said earlier in the show, if you go to our patreon.com/SouthboundSports, you can hear my full thoughts on him, but he's going to be widening the Michigan tunnel, Matt, because of those incidents that have been happening. So what do you think? Going to be safer there? Teams won't just
not. You're still going to be in Michigan.
Teams are just going to attack each other with helmets because, like, that's a thing. You're like, no, we need a tunnel to be wider so that doesn't happen.
Or maybe they should just allow teams to bring weapons with them. They bring, like, shields. You just have, like, medieval times. Just have a battle royale before the game.
Or just bring your mascot, right? Have a Wolverine biting some guy dressed as a Spartan.
Clubs, maces, just beat each other in the tunnel.
Florida State has that guy riding that horse with the spear, right? Could you imagine he comes out of the tunnel and the Wolverine's chasing him? People have like the dog or what? So Colorado has like the bull or
buffalo.
Whatever. Wasn't it Ralphie or something? Georgia, they wouldn't leave SEC territory, but Georgia comes up and they just have like a little bulldog running out. Immediately gets mauled. That's what they should do. I keep seeing there's you probably don't know this, but Michigan doesn't have an official mascot, but Michigan State like made their own version of a Wolverine. It's like a scary mascot looking thing, and I wish Michigan would just make that the mascot, because like why not? Like have like a creepy ass scary mascot, because like you have all the ones in like Major League Baseball doing weird stuff, and like what was the one Gruffy or what's the Flyers one? I can't remember now, but there's a couple of the weird ones, and so Michigan,
like a Muppet.
Yeah, Michigan should just embrace it. Bring in the people called it the Murder Wolf. Bring in the Murder Wolf, dude. Have him come into the tunnel, and he has like big googly eyes. Like awesome. I know people have like their own fan suits. Sometimes you see it around the stadium, someone wearing it. I think they should just make that the official mascot to go with the widening of the tunnel, and have him run out first, and then like how Penn State plays like Lion King and then like their cat calls or whatever they are. Like get a recording of a Wolverine, have him run out and do that. Awesome. They'll set the tone. No one will fight in the tunnel ever again. They'd be afraid to do that.
But on the flip side of that too, they could just have extra security and just be like, you're going to stay in the locker room until it's time to go, and then you're going to go out. And then you're gonna like a normal society. Yeah, but Michigan State had their guy with him, and he ran in front of the cameras and blocked it while they were fighting. Like, bro, you're the adult. Just grab your guy. Like, I've been in shuffles before. But in some of those, if the officials are there or the security's there, that becomes easier to document. Get those securities, get the police that have to wear the body cameras. Now you have your video evidence of what's going on. They already had video evidence. It didn't matter. It still took forever. I don't know. I think they did press charges, but I'm not sure. But I have been involved in bench clearing brawls myself, Matt. And I will say that like the security wouldn't have mattered. If you're going to be fighting a dude, you're going to be fighting, right? But now with cameras, that would never happen. Would you imagine if I was on a video of like fighting someone like years ago at a baseball game? That'd be insane. It'd be like if someone just randomly tweeting it and bringing it up. Like, remember that one female soccer player that was like pulling the hair of the opponents?
like years ago. Like anytime she goes for a job, like I'd assume that video is going to pop up, right? You'd almost have to change your name. I guess if she got married, it wouldn't come up, maybe. But now with AI tracking faces, who knows? Maybe it would show up. Is this you? Like, oh yeah, that is me beating that person up. Awesome. So let's see. I'm looking to see if Garoppolo's coming back this week because they're talking about it, him being the guy to come back. But I think it's the Super Bowl, right? Yeah, the Super Bowl. They'd have to make the decision. Would it be Garoppolo or Josh Johnson serve as the backup to Purdy? I'm not convinced that he would even be the backup. I think Garoppolo would be the starting quarterback. And I've heard that that's going to happen. So, or maybe that's the rumors. But we'll see. I really don't have anything else. Do you have anything else?
No.
Oh, I did have one other final bell thing. The NHL's doing like their hockey series. I have my Carolina Hurricanes Irish jersey on right now. But NC State's hockey team, Matt, club hockey, announced that they're going to be playing a game outdoors at Carter Finley Stadium after the NHL game, I think on Monday. So I think the NHL game is at the Canes and the Caps, maybe on Saturday. I might have the teams wrong. And then they're going to do like an open skate where if you're a season ticket holder, it didn't specify. I'm not, so I won't be there. But like their opening season ticket holders can go and skate at the stadium on Sunday. And then they're going to have NC State play UNC. Both have club hockey teams, I think. And so there's some rumors down here that potentially with like some investment hinted at from like the Hurricanes, that maybe they'll start to see some of the NC State and UNC become more than club teams and kind of push up. More so I'm hearing the NC State side of things compared to the UNC. But I have a hard time believing like NC State is going to be able to field a D1 hockey team with no local teams around it, right?
Yeah.
So I'd almost think that they're both going to make that jump. And I wonder if they're doing it to make themselves more attractive to the Big Ten, right? The SEC is not playing hockey. So if you're going to take an investment and try to do that, it would almost be telling the Big Ten, like, hey, look at us. We're going to go ahead and play D1 hockey. We already have all the sports. We know you want North Carolina. I've been on the record saying North Carolina is not tied to Duke in any way. The Big Ten can take North Carolina and they can leave Duke behind. I don't think that the Big Ten wants Duke as a football school, right? They took Nebraska. So everyone's saying, well, they might want Duke for basketball. It's like Duke has no fans. North Carolina doesn't have any fans in their stadium. Duke's an even smaller version of that. Like their basketball stadium's like 10,000 or something. It's so small. There's like a gigantic wait list. They might not even be that many. And so there's no upside to bringing Duke in to a big time conference. There's not. On the other hand, if you add North Carolina and NC State, you effectively cut out the SEC of North Carolina, which is a gigantic state, right? So I've been saying, like, hey, maybe the Big Ten like just pulls some money makers and they go like Florida State, Georgia Tech, and tries to get into some of those SEC states. But what if they just double down and they say, you know what? We're going to take Virginia, Virginia Tech, UNC, and NC State, and that's going to be one of our pods or whatever, 3 crossover rivalries. Which, while I'm on the topic, did I bring up that Syracuse is Florida State's other rival? Someone told me that too. I think I said it was Boston College that week, which, Matt, if you're a big Florida State fan, you should have corrected me immediately, dog.
Well, Christ almighty, I can't get a word in edgewise. You just get going, and I just figure just roll with it.
Well, go ahead. You talked about Florida State maybe making that jump. Do you think the teams would try to get an ACC hockey, like mini hockey division, to make themselves more attractive to the Big Ten?
I don't know, because I think with trying to find the balance of women's sports to men's sports and trying to build the standalone football facility and trying to accommodate stuff with baseball and softball, I just don't see from Florida State's perspective how you look in good faith and say, oh yeah, we want to field a hockey team, not guaranteeing yourself to get in. I think that could be something that if you're in negotiations and you say, if being part of the conference means we have to add this, that's something we're willing to commit to down the road. But until you put the contract out there, we're going to pass. I mean, Florida State's made the ACC. They've made a living just being in the conference and kind of being the lone wolf. And it wasn't until recently that Clemson started, carrying some of the conference stuff. But I mean, the conference titles and everything else ran through Florida State through the 90s and into the 2000s.
And that's where I think the Big Ten doesn't want a rivalry with the SEC. They probably want to get to the point where everyone talks about like, oh, you're going to have 464 like total, like 4 16-team conferences. Like, no, why not just one big conference that makes their own rules? And whether it stops at 64 teams, I think if you do grab both Virginia and North Carolina, I think the name for the Big Ten will probably end up changing to something like stupid, like the College Athletics Association or something. But I think then you put yourself in a position where if you take Clemson and Georgia Tech and Florida State, it makes it pretty attractive to some of the SEC schools to say, like, no, don't take Georgia Tech, just take Georgia, right? Because, like, I think, like, North Carolina right now, the money came out, they're making, like, 30-something, almost 40,000 a year. The Big Ten's, like, making 80+. So if you're telling NC State, hey, we're going to make a hockey team, and like you said, maybe you try to get the invite first, but you put it out there saying, like, look, this is our club hockey team. We're ready to make the jump to D1, because Illinois has been talking about it for a while. They had the investment. It kind of fell through. I think it's kind of easy to balance if you had a women's team. And I think that would be something that these networks would want, right?
But I would say when you're looking at this hockey front, it's not like soccer where you just say, okay, here's your dry fit shirt, and we'll get you a pair of spikes and roll the ball out and have at. Like there's going to be equipment that you're going to have to get. Like there's a reason that hockey isn't as widespread as some of these other sports, because there is more of an investment. Not to mention trying to develop the facilities for the standalone rink. That how do you make that fit?
Well, that's where I think Penn State kind of laid the blueprint for NC State, at least, where they showed how to make the jump from club team, where it doesn't take a big investment because you're already funding it yourself as a club program. So, yeah, you're going to have to travel more and whatever. Like if you add a female team, like you're going to travel a little bit more, but there's not that many female teams. So to me, like if you add a couple other hockey teams, like I think Michigan could make the jump and finally add a women's team. I know there's been rumors about that for a while, where if the women's hockey is basically just the Big Ten conference. They already let Notre Dame play in the Big Ten in hockey, right? So I really don't think NC State and UNC are going to pull Notre Dame away. I think realistically, if Florida State and some of the other ones that have been rumored about hockey, if they all make that jump, they're going to just join the Big Ten. And maybe it's only for one sport. But I think it gets your foot in the door where you're like, hey, Notre Dame, if you bounce, we want to come with you. Like, we're hockey buddies, right? We play soccer together. Women's basketball, bro. Come on. And they're like, and Notre Dame's probably licking their chops because they see what happens when they join the ACC, where they're in the championship game the first year in football. So if they can kind of guarantee some scheduling crossover where it's like, hey, we want our crossover to be the ACC, and then maybe you have like a more frequent, like second tier, where we're playing like Michigan and Michigan State and we rotate them. I think that would work out best for both conference teams, right? Like I could see a three-way non-permanent rivalry where Michigan State, Michigan, and Notre Dame kind of rotate between each other. And then I think that would work out. And you could also do something like that with like Ohio State, Nebraska, and Penn State or something like that. Just so you're not playing each other every year, but you're playing another big-time program. Maybe Ohio State's is like USC or something. I don't know. But that's one of the competitive balance things that I think they could do. Like instead of having Michigan's permanent rivals be Ohio State, Michigan State, and Minnesota, just make it Ohio State, Minnesota, and Rutgers, and then have Michigan State and Notre Dame bounce back and forth. Because if they did join and it was Michigan plays Michigan State, Notre Dame, and Ohio State every year, to be honest, that would kind of suck from a competitive balance. Right? You're playing 3 of the tougher teams every single year, while Ohio State's toughing it up with like the Illabuck Trophy with Illinois. It's like, great work, guys. So, I don't know. I just didn't want to forget to bring it up. I'm going to try to go to the outdoor game.
I guess also on the same note, maybe don't have a trophy with every single team in your conference, and then you're not put in that situation.
Well, Matt, if you do, then you should be able to pick, right? So we should be able to pick Northwestern as one of our rivals. Could you imagine if, like, because they talked about, like, hey, whenever USC and UCLA come in, what trophies should there be? And someone was saying, like, make it an airplane trophy between, like, the farthest 2 teams, like Rutgers and UCLA or something. And I was like, that would be something exactly the Big Ten would do. Like, make it the most ridiculous trophy between 2 teams that really don't matter. Because, like, Rutgers, it might have been USC, I can't remember. But, like, USC Rutgers game, that game's never going to matter. If you add a trophy to it, you're not going to make me watch it, right? Like, unless for some reason Rutgers has a chance to knock them off, which I've seen that story. I've seen that movie between Maryland and Rutgers trying to beat Ohio State to get Michigan in the Big Ten championship. It never happens. It might be close, but it never happens. So, like, adding a trophy to it isn't going to make me more excited, right? So, I don't know. I don't really have anything else. You have anything else for the show?
The only other thing I was looking at is we're getting ready here to be transitioning from the NFL season to our spring leagues, our USFL and XFL. And the Pittsburgh Maulers surprisingly unveiled that they're switching to the black and gold, so that they went away from the traditional orange and purple and are now matching the rest of the Pittsburgh city colors.
Yeah, because it was ridiculous that they even went with those in the first place. It looks like amateur hours. Might as well just do whatever. So I'm glad you brought that up. I did notice one thing that was embarrassing. You know how they keep showing those highlights? If you look at the records of the teams that the USFL has like highlights from, it's like a 5-4 team beating up on a 1-7 squad. And I'm like, damn, they should just remove that from the highlight, right? Crop it just a little bit so that we can't see how bad some of these teams are that you're going to be watching. Because no one wants to watch the worst team in the NFL play. Come on. They don't even show them. They only show them regionally. So if you grow up, you might think that's the only thing out there.
But then the other thing was I saw that the XFL was trying to find venues for some of their games, and they reached out to Las Vegas to try to get the Raiders Stadium and was shut down. But with the USFL choosing smaller venue stadiums, they're having easier access trying to find some of those, which I think when you're looking at some of the games, trying to make it more appeal to the fans and trying to get more bodies in the stadium, I think they're playing that right, as opposed to trying to get these big venues where you may not have as many people in the stands.
And I said the same thing. I like the smaller stadiums. Like, show me a stadium. I made fun of Duke's small stadium, but like, that's a basketball team that's supposed to be a national brand. Like, at that point, increase your stadium or like do something, or just admit that you're not going to be on that top level. Where you have the XFL, it's like, yeah, show me a gigantic empty stadium. And to me, that's like so odd. Like, I would rather watch some of the college football where they have the smaller stadiums, but it's absolutely rocking. And you can tell that people are into it. Same with ticket prices. Lower the prices. I'm not going to pay $40 to go see an XFL game, you know? How are you supposed to take your family to that? It's supposed to be a cheap minor league type event where get a smaller stadium. If you want the higher prices, get the smaller stadium and sell it out. Or get the bigger stadium and sell the tickets dirt cheap. Right? Make them $10 and you get a hot dog or something. I think it would be easier that way to get people to come in. Or try something weird. Like, we're at Raleigh, like, why not try to see if you can use like Carter Finley or some other college stadium that's not super big. But like, I'm sure the stadiums sit there empty the entire year, right? They're all trying to share with like these professional sports teams where the owners own it. give back to the people. Right? You already have a built-in college fan base where it's like, hey, if you have a college ID, tickets are $10, you know, or $5. Like, even make it crazy so that you can kind of fill the stadium, and the stadiums are still big. Some college stadiums are bigger than the NFL ones. So that would be a route that I would go. But I don't know if you want to add on that or if you just want to wrap it up.
No, that's it.
All right. Thanks for listening. And make sure you subscribe. Go to southboundsports.com. You can find all our episodes there. And we will see you next week.